Hello, my fellow Americans. 'Tis I, the rumpled one. Too big to jail. Oh, so much has been coming out over the past few weeks about the financial downturn we had with the housing bubble and all those credit default swaps and other arcane, esoteric, exotic instruments of financial destruction that the banks were engaged in. We've seen Chase Bank get hit with $1 billion fine. I think Citibank and maybe Morgan Chase, they've been basically slapped on the wrist. We found out that Eric Holder's trying to been covering up this stuff, and there's just the whistleblowers are coming out. But the one thing is that it wasn't that these banks and corporations were too big to fail. It's just that the people that running them were just too big to jail. You know, they gave too much money to those in power. I mean, we know it's a revolving door from the private industry to government regulators back to the private industry on the lobbyists. And we, the American people, just get bent over and we got to take it. Because it's our tax dollars. You know, the printing press is propping up these agencies. I mean, these toxic loans that they were creating and then selling them as repackaged, having the rating companies, you know, rating them as good when they know they were just junk, ready to blow up, betting against them. I mean, it's just so much. It's just been detailed in books and now more. But nobody's being hauled off to prison. They're too big to jail. I mean, the excuses that these people are making, that these guys were so high up that they can't be held accountable for what their companies are doing because they're so far removed from it. Hello, these guys are the ones who set the policy. They're the ones at the, you know, at the controls. They're the ones telling people what to do. It's just, it just boggles the mind how these guys can get away with it. And what are we to do? I mean, we keep putting the same people back in office time after time. Okay, now we've got a Republican House and Senate. But do you really think much is going to change? We've got the same Ivy Leaguers. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we just really need to press the reset button somewhere. We need to find it and press it. And just put this stuff back where it belongs. And I guess the problem is that sure we go, we vote, but nothing changes. You know, the only thing to do is realize it exists, and then do what you can to avoid it, and just make your life the best possible. I mean, that's what it gets down to. Almost any social problem is recognizing the problem and then figuring out what you can do to avoid, evade, or escape that problem from affecting you. I mean, you could go on crusades, but they're long coming, and sometimes they're life-ending, and you just really have to decide what you're willing to spend your time, your life on, fighting for, fighting against, as opposed to just living the best life you can live. That's really what it gets down to. But in the meantime, when I see these things, I just shake my head and just go, you know, now I kind of understand what my father was doing when he'd watch the 6 o'clock news at night and start having political discussions and, you know, talking about what people were doing. It's just awful that over the, you know, my lifetime that we're still having to deal with this kind of nonsense. And it's not getting any better, it's getting worse. You know it, I know it. So, like I said, those are my ideas. I'd like to hear what your ideas are. And just remember, in the meantime, my fellow Americans, wake up and smell the tyranny.